Well, I say it every week, but that's another week gone by, amazingly. God, so much has happened this week. Absolutely crazy. I will be talking about it in the next week, but I am actually about to embark on the Lincoln Steampunk Festival over August Bank Holiday. Anybody coming there, you will see as well. I'm doing a talk on the Friday. I'm doing an interview on the Saturday, and there's a big announcement coming. So make sure you're there. We'll see how that goes in the coming weeks. Now, my guest didn't manage to speak to her at Flux, which is a real shame. But the private view night was crazy. It was also boiling hot, so everybody was quite worn out by the end of it. But it was a fantastic night. But I've said this before, every artist that I've interviewed on this show is completely different to any that I've interviewed before, and this one's no exception. So, Wendy Kriz Evans, emerging artist who infuses her vibrant abstract creations with deep joy, bright energy, and gratitude. Based in East Anglia, Wendy rediscovered her love of art in the mid 2024. Now, you're going to find out in a second that mid 2024, but I can't believe how many exhibitions Wendy has taken part in. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But she takes her inspiration from her rural surroundings, childhood memories of living by the sea, and deeply individual experiences. So we're going to get into talking to Wendy in a bit. But first of all, as usual, I've created a video of her work and chosen appropriate music because the music's actually called Joy. There you go. Told you it was something different again. Very interesting work. And let's bring Wendy in to start our chat. And I'm going to move you over the other side, Wendy, because it's much better for me for that way round. So, hello.
Hello.
As we've seen, you got some amazing work. And the bit I kind of need to ask is, you did art at school, you loved it, but then you had a 30-year detour into the insurance industry, and you got a degree on the way, something completely different, but only came back to your art last year. So my question is, what could you have done in that 30-year period if you'd have still carried on your art?
I know. I do think about that a lot, actually. You know, where would I be now if I just focused on art? But I think in some ways I just wasn't ready. What I used to struggle with at art when I was at school was I struggled to know what I wanted to say. I don't think I had enough life experience to have, you know, something I wanted to impart to other people. And there wasn't enough of me, so I had to create me first before I could start making art.
Yeah, and that does make sense because, and I also believe that look, I've said this before, you meet people because you're supposed to, and how you react to them, good or bad, defines you as a person. But also things happen and things come to you at certain times of your life because they're supposed to too. Um, you know, I couldn't do any of the work that I do 20 years ago because all the cameras, Photoshop, none of that was available. But from you, I can understand what you're saying. And look, we've just seen the video of your work, and it is joyful for sure. And I hope you like the music because I had a real. It was quite difficult to find something that had joy as the title and also related to that with the music. But let's ask a couple of questions first of all. So what would you say, which we've already mentioned about your surroundings and where you live in East Anglia, but what else is would you say is your influences in terms of how you work and what you do?
So a lot of it is experiences that I've had over the years. So and also my childhood. So I grew up by the sea, and I really miss living near the sea. So where we live near Cambridge is one of the furthest places from the sea in the country. So it's a bit sad that we're so far away. So I do miss being close to the sea. So you'll see a lot of blue and sort of wave-like things in some of my work. Also, I'm very affected by the seasons. So you'll see the colours change as the seasons change. And I've got
Okay.
a series called Autumn, and then there's a sort of spring and a summer, and there's yeah. So I do try and sort of work with the seasons. I like to feel connected to nature, and I love being outside, but I just never get enough time to be outside. Especially if I'm making, I do my art in the garden regularly when it's warm. But yeah, it is hard to get enough time in nature, and it's so good for you. So with my work, even if it's not nice outside, I try and sort of bring that feeling of being in nature into my work. So then it's in my house, and even if it isn't actual nature, looking at the work, not only do I look at it and it looks like nature, it reminds me of how I felt when I was making it as well. So it makes me really happy and joyful to see my own work.
Look, that's an important point. I mean, if you don't like your work, then nobody else will. So that's a good start. But also there is the point that, if it makes you happy, that's more important than anything else.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think you find that I often talk to youngsters, and I say to them that if you've got something inside you that you really want to do, don't wait. Actually, just go and do it, and actually uh, maybe be a bit selfish. But if this, for your work, if this is making you happy and gives you that sort of piece of you that you need, then I think that's really important. Now, I'm gonna quickly jump to a little bit here, which since mid 2024. You've participated, I can't believe this, in 21 gallery exhibitions with 5 more scheduled for this year. Now, I know that you've got a day job.
Yeah.
So how do you manage to fit those in? And B, are they local to where you live, or are they dotted about all over the place and you've got to do a bit of traveling on? So what's the deal with your exhibitions?
So was the first question, how did I get so many?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good.
Okay. So how did I get so many? Well, I basically spent every evening when I was sat watching TV applying to anything I could find.
Mm.
So I applied to galleries all over the country, online, in person, chose the work that I thought would fit best, and yeah, just basically spent. I was applying to, on average, one a day.
Wow.
But once you get into the flow, it's quite easy to do. Um,
I mean, it's just really interesting because one of the things that you find, look, there are lots of people who paint, take photographs, sculpt, whatever they do, but it does take a certain type of person to say, put yourself out there and actually go, you know what, I'm going to exhibit that, or I'm going to take this to a gallery. It takes a certain type of person, and you clearly are that if you're pushing yourself to that degree. And fair play, because we had a little conversation before we came on, and one of the things I often say is that nobody sells your work better than you.
Mm.
And, you know, if you're putting yourself in these exhibitions, people will realize, oh, I know her. Well, they know you because you're everywhere. I mean, which it's not a bad thing. I think it's not a bad thing at all. It's a very good thing. So you've got 5 scheduled more for this year, and you've got the reason. So I should add actually to people that are watching that, and I'm going to just bring this up. So look, this is going out live, but it is pre-recorded because you've got a solo show going on, and you've got the private view tomorrow night, so, which is why we're doing this on Wednesday, the day before. So whereabouts is that? Let's sort of start with that first of all. Whereabouts is that?
It's in the City of London, so it's
Oh,
between
really?
Liverpool
Cool.
Street Station and Aldgate Station, and it's in a cafe called Chaos Cafe. And all of my work is there. I went down there yesterday. I took 700 photos at lunchtime of the work and me with the work, and I've had a couple of ex-colleagues today send me pictures of them at the cafe today, which is really exciting. I didn't know they were going. They just said, "Oh, I'm at the cafe. I'm here seeing your work." So that was brilliant. And then quite a few people have said they're going to come tomorrow. So I think it's going to be a great party. Like lots of ex-colleagues. Some people I've met through the artwork, some friends as well. So because it's really central, it's very easy to get to. So I think quite a few people are going to come.
Well, that's brilliant. You shocked me there for a minute because you sent me a huge amount of pieces of your work, and when you said 700, I thought for a minute you got 700 pieces on the wall in a cafe. That's going to be, that would be ridiculous, but yeah, brilliant, and probably a really good place as well, especially during the week when people are working. That is superb. So look, let's start talking about a few of your pieces of work, because I'm really interested in what kind of thing inspires you. And we can see, we've already said about it being nature. So let's bring this first one up. Now you have got a series of these. I've just picked one out of the series. And so what was it about this that made you want to paint it?
So it was over Christmas. I was feeling, I think I mentioned this earlier, really disconnected from nature. And it was dark and it was cold and I couldn't go outside and I just felt really miserable. So I decided I wanted to bring nature to my studio, to my head, to my life. This series is called Reimagined Nature because it's all from memory. It's all from my head. I could have got some flowers and painted them, but I wanted to really imagine flowers in my head and like really make it real to me, so that it sort of I was absorbing and sort of letting it out and like really being in nature, like trying to get that feeling. So that's what I was trying to do, and it did make me feel better. I like just putting paint on a canvas makes me feel better anyway, but thinking about nature and being in nature and willing spring to come, it definitely made me feel happier.
Yeah. So are these flowers that you know that you've
So
painted?
they're sort of lilies.
Lilies, yeah.
Yeah, so I was sort of thinking about Monet when I was doing it. Obviously, my colours are completely different, but also a little bit of Van Gogh as well with the colours, the sort of swirls and the blues. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't really have much of a plan usually. I like to try and get into a sort of playful flow state where I'm just playing with the paint and seeing where it takes me. And my process is quite different. I would say, yeah, this was another one. This one's actually tiny. It's only 5 inches square, this one.
Wow. I was going to ask the question: A, what size are they? And B, are you using acrylics? Are you using oils? What's your preferred
So
medium? And yeah, and is it on canvas or is it on board?
it's all on
Canvas.
canvas and it's all
All
acrylic.
right, cool. Yeah, cool. Yes. So 5 inches square. Wow. Just like,
It's tiny.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
this
is
is part of
tiny.
a series of 3. The other
Yeah.
two were bought by a collector together. But yeah, this is the only one that's left now, this little one.
Mm.
And yeah, this one, um, it's part of my Dusk series. So this was at the sort of beginning of spring, or it was the end of autumn last year. So I was trying to capture that sort of moment at dusk, sort of about nowish time, sort of half past seven-ish, as it gets dark. So the gold in there is trying to sort of get that golden sunlight. And this one's sort of trying to capture that at the beach and at the sea. So the blue is the sea, and it's sort of darker in some places and lighter in others. And the idea is that the sun's going down and lighting some pieces, and other pieces are more in shadow. And the red is the sky. So it's not an exact representation, obviously, but I'm trying to capture the energy and the light at that time and in that place.
So just talk to me in this one, no, not in the one we've just seen, but this one in particular. So what's your process? How have you created this? Because I mean, it's obviously not 5 inches square is tiny, but how have you created this swirling effect? And also, which is, I mean, I'm looking really closely at it, which it's always difficult on a screen, but you've got some great edges as well going on in that. It looks 3D. It's very clever, actually, what you've done. So, what are you layering this up? Are you, how do you start putting something like this together?
Yeah, you're right. It's layering. So I'll start. So you can see around the corners, there's a slightly lighter, brighter red. So that was the first layer, was that sort of red there. And then the blue was another layer on top. And then the swirl in the middle is golden red. And then the bits around the edge were just sort of finishing it off. And there were probably another couple of layers in there somewhere as well. But the big swirl, that's done with a single palette knife in a single swoosh, basically. So what I did was I got a huge amount of paint on a palette knife, which I absolutely love, getting loads of paint on a palette knife. It's one of my favorite things. And then put it on the painting and get it just right. So what I was trying to do was get the gold to sort of go through the red, so you can see the pigments of gold sort of swirling through it. And that's what I was trying to capture. I've got a similar one to this, is much bigger as well. So I practiced doing that loads of times. And then this one just worked first time. I did the swoosh and I just loved it. And you're right, you can see the edge on there. And that is 3D. It's really thick. So all of my work, you can see how thick it is. I weighed a canvas before and after I'd applied the paint once to see how much difference it made. I think it was like 50 or 60 grams. So it's less than you think, but as it dries, it weighs a lot less. But yeah, I get through a lot of paint.
I mean, look, this is one of my favorites out of all the ones you sent me. I think it's really clever, and I'm surprised it's only 5 inches square, but I think this is a really clever image, and well done. What about this one? Is this a similar size, or is this we're going bigger with this one?
No, it's the same size. You've picked another mini there. That's a tiny one.
It's great though. It's right. So what is this? What's the background to this one?
So it's a mushroom. This was at this was at the sort of mushroom season in autumn. And again, I was looking into the garden and I saw mushrooms, and this actually wasn't going to be a mushroom originally. It was going to be something completely different, but I sort of built up layers and I put paint on, and it just wasn't doing it for me. So I left it to the side for a few weeks, and then came back to it, and the weather had changed, the light had changed, and I picked it up and looked at the mushroom and thought, this is a mushroom. So then that was when I started putting the green on. So the red and the gold were already there. So then to make it look like a mushroom, that's when I added the green. And again, it's just like that dusk moment as the sun is going down with the gold, capturing the sort of green of the grass around the mushroom.
Yeah, I mean, it's also got a little element of darkness about it. And by that, I mean, there's a mystery sitting in the middle of that, especially with the pattern around the outside, the texture around the outside that you've got there. It does give it a little bit of but there's a little bit of darkness in there, which I do quite like, to be fair. It's again, it's another clever image. I'm gonna just see. Yeah, we've got a couple like that, so I'm going to jump down and come back to the others. But here's another one. Guessing that this is the palette knife again. Okay, what's the inspiration for this?
So this is another one from my autumn series, and this one is called The Field at Dusk. So if you look at the end of the swoosh, it's kind of green and gold. That represents a sheaf of wheat. And the pink is the sky as the sun goes down, and there's blue and green and gold in the background of the sky as well. And the green is the sort of big swoosh of green is the wheat. And what I'm trying to capture here is, you know, as you're driving along at dusk and the sun's just setting, and it's really low, but it's still quite bright, and it just captures that field at the right angle, and the whole field glows gold.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean, I find it really interesting because one of the things that you cannot teach anybody is imagination. It's something you've either got or you haven't, and the way that you're interpreting what you're doing takes imagination. It's not. This is not something that somebody can really sort of, I don't know, copy in a lot of ways. They can try, but it's really quite interesting how you have come up with this idea. So if you were going to put this together, this image, this painting, if you were going to put it together, do you sketch it out, or do you just go, okay, I know what kind of colors I'm going to use, and off you go? Is that your, you know, how do you plan putting something like this together?
So there's not a lot of planning because I like the flow and play state. I feel that that's how I can get the most out of my subconscious, basically. There's a lot going on in my subconscious that I can access when I'm painting. And I do other things while I'm painting as well, which help me access that. So something I did recently was listening to music from when I was a teenager and when I was at university. That helped me access memories that I'd completely forgotten about, and things that had happened that I'd forgotten about. And so that all of that stuff then sort of was embedded into the art as I painted.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I find quite a lot of abstract artists do just go with the flow, but there are others, because there's a story attached to it. They have a pre-planned idea of what they're going to do. But I think sometimes the best way is to just go with the flow, because then you become part of the painting. You're in it. Let's pull another one up, which is The Forest at Dusk. And obviously that's quite obvious when you see the title. So I've said this a few times, that actually titles play an important part. And I've never understood how some people come up with a title that I think when you have a title, you kind of got to see that in the picture. You've got to grasp it, especially if you're a purchaser. So again, you've got some great colors going on with this one. So what's your thinking here?
So this one, it's the same series as the previous one. So it's the Dusk series, and this is quite big. This is 0.5 meter square. This one, and it's a 3D canvas. So the edges are all painted, got red and gold as well. And this was on display at Lloyd's of London. So as part of my day job, I'm part of the Lloyd's of London market, and they have an annual exhibition there every November. So I'm taking part again this year. And that was last November. It was one of the first big exhibitions I did, and this was on display there. And the colours here, again, I'm trying to capture that moment at dusk, but there's more red because I'm trying to capture you know, you're in the forest and it's dark, but there's a few like bits of light catching some of the leaves. But as you look up and you see the sky, it's kind of red, but then there might be a bit of gold over here. So that's what I'm trying to get there. But this one's a bit more layered than the previous one in terms of the green. So you can see that there's sort of
Yeah.
sort of circles
Yeah.
everywhere. The way I do that is I get the palette knife and I scrape the paint across, and then do that again and again and again with different colors, and then it catches a slightly smaller piece every time.
Yeah.
So then you end up with a sort of
Yeah.
volcano
Yeah.
paint in different
Yeah.
colors. And so the bits that are the lightest are the bits that are closest to you, and that again enhances the feeling of depth and being in a forest and having that sort of light catching.
So how do you I'll start again with what I was going to say, because so much came to me as you were just talking there. But one of the questions that did come to me was, look, you haven't done. You started after a 30-year break. I'm guessing you didn't really do much palette knife work at school 30 years ago. So why a palette knife? What is it? Are you a do you secretly hope to be a plasterer or something like that? What is it that drew you to a palette knife to being your go-to tool?
But I do appreciate a good plaster. Like when somebody gets it, like a good line, I
Yeah.
love it. So maybe that's part of it. I think I love the idea. Like my first layer is always a layer of paint which I put on with the palette knife. So I scrape it across rather than using a paintbrush, which would just be too slow and it wouldn't give me the smoothness that I'm looking for with that
Right.
first layer. So I start with a palette knife, and then because I've started with a palette knife, I kind of just continue with the palette knife because it feels good, and I just you can get more paint on. I do use a brush regularly, and particularly for some of
The flowers.
the more
Yeah.
detailed work. But yeah, there's just something about palette knives that I don't know. I just like that scraping as you put
So
it on.
okay then. So what made you try it in the first place? What was the sort of, oh, I think I'll give that a go? What was that moment?
So there's quite a lot of artists that do use
Hmm.
palette knives, and I follow them on Instagram, and I saw them using the palette knife, particularly for the sort of first layer to get your canvas covered. So I just started doing that. It seemed, the way things were done, and people were doing that, so I thought, I'll just try it, and it really worked for me. I liked doing that, so I just continued and made it my
Yeah, I
own.
mean, probably Bob Holness was one of the ones that everybody knows purely because he had his TV program for years. And in fact, my father started using the palette knife after watching him. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It seems, look, if we just bring that one up again, it seems that you can tell looking at this that you really enjoy using it. I think that's certainly one of the things that comes across to me. So if we now have a look at something like this, are you clearly are, because I can see the background that you're mixing two. You've got a bit of brushwork going on as well in this one, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So the flowers themselves, the pink flowers, they're done with a palette knife. So
Yeah.
you can see the sort of
Yeah.
flat
Yeah.
bit in the middle and then the ridge around the edge. And that's another thing with a palette knife, you can really get a lot of
Yeah.
texture. But to get the detail, I've then gone over with paintbrushes. And some of the paintbrushes I use are absolutely tiny. So they're designed for eyelashes.
Oh.
So they've got about four hairs in them. So you can get some really good
Yeah.
detail if you use a
Yeah.
tiny, tiny brush.
It's interesting because I spoke to one artist that used a mascara brush because to get the texture, it's quite interesting how,
Yeah.
it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't just mean that you have to use a brush, or you can try using all sorts. But again, another thing with this is it's another clever image because you are putting depth into your work cleverly, in the almost in the same way that a photographer would, because your background is not highly detailed, but your foreground with the flowers is, and then you're using the light on the stems to bring those parts of it forward. So again, it's clever. And what I'm interested to know is, though, do you consciously do that, or is that just something you do, and therefore this is what makes this you?
So I am layering. That is my process. So I'm trying to get that depth in, because to me it's all about layers and textures and 3D and really making some bits stand out. So I guess I am doing it on purpose. I am trying.
Oh no,
I'm
I'm not saying you're not doing it on purpose. What I'm saying is it looks like you do it naturally though.
Oh, I
That's
see
why
what
I'm
you mean.
getting that.
Yeah.
You're working on this and thinking, you know what, I can bring those forward if I put a bit of lightness in there. But I think you do it naturally, and I'm one for there's no rules. And people that say there are rules, people that fire all these rules at you, actually, um, you're the artist, and if that's how you want it to be, and that's how you create what you're doing, who's to say that that's right or wrong? And I think what you're doing here is you are creating depth. But I feel, looking at your work, you don't have to try too hard, because I think you've got this in you to be able to put that depth in. Because look, every single picture we've looked at so far has got it. So
Yeah.
I feel anyway, it comes across to me as though you're doing it very naturally. Um, However, if people are wondering what it's like to be inside Wendy Kriz Evans' head, well, here this one tells us, because that's what it's called, Inside My Head. And is this what it's like inside your head?
Sometimes, yes. So what's interesting, my favorite part of this one is the bit on the top right. It sort of looks like a
Oh
finger.
yeah,
It's a round, yeah. So that's my favorite palette
right.
knife. And that is basically me sticking my middle finger up to anybody that says art is not a suitable career.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, isn't it funny, because I had somebody say to me in an exhibition, "Oof, looks like kids have done it," and I went, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah, what's made you say that?" And she said, "Well, I'm an art teacher," and I went, "Okay." And no disrespect to any art teachers out there watching, but my answer was, "Well, that explains everything," because kids can't do what I do, and that's where it's different. And I also believe nobody can do what you do unless they've got your brain. They can
Yeah.
try, they can all try, but people will see it as somebody trying to be you. And
Mm.
the thing that I find really really cool with all the stuff that you sent me, because it's got Wendy Krivens written over it. Now that is a very difficult thing to get when I've had artists in the past say, find it really difficult to find my style. And I think we could look at all of these that we've looked at so far and know they were you. And that's a very important thing to have. So, all right, we've got the finger sticking in the air, but what about all the rest of it? What, is that sums up your daily life, does it?
Yeah. I have undiagnosed
Mm,
ADHD, I'm pretty sure. So my brain is quite a bit of a mess sometimes, and I do find it difficult to organize things, particularly now. So I spent most of my life writing lists and trying to be organized, and everyone would say, "Oh, you're so organized," but I had to be, otherwise everything was a mess and I couldn't remember things. So I spent all of my life, sort of 35, 40 years, making all these systems which would help me remember
mm,
things and put things in order, and bring order to my life and to my brain. And then 6 years ago, I started having menopause
right.
symptoms. And suddenly, all of the systems that I'd built, all of my coping mechanisms just didn't work anymore. And I didn't even know I had ADHD until the last couple of years, because until then, it had just been something that was just me and that was just what I did. And it's only come to light now that I just can't use my same coping mechanisms I'd used my whole life. And it's really it's odd to look back now and think, right, that was why I had to do it like that. And you don't think everyone else thinks differently to you. You think brains are brains and everyone thinks the same. So it's kind of odd to realize that your brain works differently to other people's.
Yeah, to be honest, I think there's probably an awful lot of people in that situation, and also, but there is also an element of we are all individuals, and thank God we are, because otherwise we'd all be producing exactly the same stuff, and we'd all turn up at an exhibition, and everybody go, "Oh right, okay, we've got 400 seascapes here. What's going on?" So it would be, but I think the important thing is to be able to harness that, and that's clearly what you're doing. You're harnessing that. I think the issue of writing lists and putting things together, I think I'll tell you what I used to be like. I used to get everything ready for the day and put it on the front door mat. Yeah,
I do that.
except I step over it and go to work. Leave it all there. So, that gives you a bit of an idea. It's just one of those things. You get everything ready. And sometimes I can be driving to work and I get a phone call. Did you mean to leave this behind? Yeah, well, okay. I didn't, but I have. So, the beauty of it, though, I think, when you then come to start putting art together, it does make you a little bit more critical of your own work, and therefore you pay a bit more attention to the detail, which I think is also important. Right, let's have a look at some of these. Now, just looking at some of what you've created, thinking of the mushroom one in particular. I don't know if you saw this week's Fake or Fortune, but I think there's a little bit of the artist just as I've said that has gone straight out of my head. There's a little bit of her style in what you do, and I'll find out what the artist is, and I'll let you know so you can look it up. But it was you'll see what I mean if you see what she did. Quite a famous artist around the time Picasso's time it was as well, but very interesting. So talk to me about this one, which is Lloyd's Pink.
Yes. So I already mentioned Lloyd's and my involvement with the Lloyd's market. So this is the Lloyd's building from a very sort of strange angle. So if you imagine you're sitting on the ground looking up at the building, and I'm trying to capture the sort of structure of the building, but I also really admire this building, and lots of people don't understand the reasoning behind why the building is how the building is, and it's super interesting. So it's an inside out building. All of the facilities are on the outside, which makes it really expensive to maintain. So that's the lift shaft. Actually, no, that's the stairs. In the middle, that's the stairs. The out the sort of spiral staircase that goes down the outside, and then you've all the sort of tubey bits either sides. They're the wires in there, and all of the water pipes and stuff like that. So all of the bits that make the building work are all on the outside. And the reason for that is so that they can have the biggest open plan as possible inside. And the reason for that is because it's about honesty. It's because if you're buying insurance from somebody or you're selling insurance to somebody, you need to trust them that they're going to keep their promises. Because as an insurer, you're selling a promise. You're saying, if you pay me this money, I promise that if this terrible thing happens to you, I will pay you. And you have to really trust somebody that, okay, yeah, I believe that you will pay me. So to have that trust, the idea is that everybody in the room can see each other. They can all see the whites of their eyes and can see what's going on. And you can't, because it's also a market. So everybody's like selling the same bits of insurance and they're all sort of doing the same things. Imagine like it's all sort of all tomato sellers, and they buy one tomato from you, one tomato from you, one tomato from you, and they all have to sort of see, okay, that's how much we're selling for tomatoes for this week.
Right. So just so people can see, I've actually, while you were talking, I've Googled it and found it. So I'm just going to share the screen because people will then completely understand. Look, you can see the building, and you can see exactly what Wendy's talking about with everything being on the outside of it. So it makes it obvious as well. But wow, what a building! And there's a little bit up the top here. I think there you go. You can zoom in and see what it is. But that's
Building turned
yeah,
inside out.
that's exactly what you just said. So that is really really clever. And you've got a different time of day here, I guess, with this one, which is Lloyd's Purple. So it's because it's one of those buildings that's very metallic, shiny, reflective, etc. Then that is going to change at different times of the day. So yeah, very cool actually. So did you do this from memory, or did you do it laying on the floor outside the building?
I did it from memory.
Okay.
You can see it's not an
No,
accurate representation.
but it is a representation. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
accurate. You're not doing that sort of work, and yeah, find it quite fascinating. So let's have a look. We got a little bit of different abstract now as well, which are these blocks, and this is called In Alignment, which it clearly is. But what's the inspiration for this one? Because we've gone in a slightly different direction to where we've been with all the others.
So this one is related to
Mm-hmm.
menopause. It's called In Alignment because I got my dose right of my medication, which suddenly meant that everything in my life became aligned. And that was what allowed me to start painting,
Right.
and what gave me the creative boost. I didn't realize the link between hormones and creativity, but for me, there's a massive link. If I don't get my hormones, if I forget to take my tablet in the morning, by the evening, I just, I can't do anything. I can't paint, definitely not, because it just takes away my creativity. So it's very strange how your hormones really affect everything in your life. So for me, each one of the squares represents a different facet of my life. So one will be, my job, my house, my children, my dog.
Yeah.
So they all represent something different, but they're all aligned. Finally, for the first time in 6 years, everything has lined up, and I feel like finally I can breathe. I can be myself. I can express myself. And there's also a little hidden meaning. So the squares are also representing the shape of the HRT patch.
Okay, got it. Well, so it's very interesting that basically what you're saying is that all your work is based on the drugs you're taking.
Yeah, taking drugs.
No, but isn't it fascinating how see this comes back to what I was saying earlier about things come to you at certain times of your life for a reason, and this seems to have sort of fitted in with with you. So when did you sort of realize that? When did you realize that taking your hormones for HRT if you didn't take it, affected your creativity? When did that sort of become apparent?
So actually, it was only earlier this year. I hadn't put the two things together, and what happened was I was trying to get dressed in the morning, and I think you can probably tell I dress quite flamboyantly, and I like, especially in winter, because I like to layer, I get cold, so I sort of try and put an outfit together, like we were saying before, work. So I tried to do it, and I just couldn't do it the night before. Like, why can't I put an outfit together? What's wrong with me? And I realized I'd forgotten to take my tablets that morning. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I can't do this because I haven't got my medication. And what does this mean? Is this why I can do all this art now? Because I finally got this medication that I need. And actually, I think I've almost been deficient in that medication my entire life, because ever since I was a teenager, I've had terrible, terrible hay fever. Awful. I'd have to take 2 hay fever tablets every single day, winter, summer, all the time. And then last year, when I got my medication right, I haven't had to take a single one since then.
Look, the human body is one of those things that we are still learning about, and it's only when things like this come up that that they then try. Oh, okay, we can try that. We'll try that on something else. What's also interesting to me is we spoke. I mentioned it a little while ago about imagination, but so many people say to me at an exhibition, I haven't got a creative bone in my body. And I never believe that.
No, everybody does. Like, they're like, oh no, I'm not creative. I say, well, what do you do for a job? And they tell me, like, well, you create things in your job, surely, that nobody's ever made before. You're being creative. And they're like, oh yeah, it's never occurred to them. They just think creativity is doing a painting, but that's not creativity.
No, I did have one very extremely beautifully dressed woman at an exhibition. We're standing there with her husband, and she said that to me. I'm not creative bone in my body. And I said, oh, so your husband dressed you this morning, did he? And she went, what do you mean? I said, well, you haven't just flung open the wardrobe drawers and grabbed something and put it on. You've thought about how you look. So of course you're creative. You just haven't found your thing. And it might be.
Yeah, she's created a beautiful outfit.
Exactly. So, it could be a poem, it could be a painting, it could be writing a book or singing a song, it could be anything. The trouble is, I think there's an awful lot of people who can't be bothered to try it. That's one of those prints just fallen down. We thought that might happen. There's a lot of people who are just too frightened to try. And can't handle someone saying to them, that's not very good. How do you so this is a question I ask a few times, but have you realized that as an artist you do have to have a bit of a thick skin?
Absolutely, totally. So when I said I was applying to one opportunity every single day, on average, you're not getting most of those opportunities.
And you wonder what you're doing wrong.
No. I just think, well, my work's not right for this opportunity. It doesn't fit with their vision. It's I'm not the right fit for them. It's like applying for a job, and you're not going to get every job.
No,
and sometimes, quite often in my career, I've been for a job interview and I've not got the job. And thinking about it afterwards, I'm like, actually, do you know what? What they needed, and they knew that I wouldn't be the right fit.
Yeah.
So even jobs that I've not got, I've always thought it's like you say, it's for a reason. It's because I'm not the right fit for that job. And I don't ever take it personally. I just think, some people like my work, some people don't like my work, and that's completely fine. I think the worst thing would be if everybody was just a bit like, that's okay.
I think the worst thing for me is people that don't even look. The people that just walk past and don't even look. And I want to run after them and drag them back and say, right, go on, stop a minute and have a look. And it took me a while to just grasp the fact that quite a lot of people that come to an exhibition often are there just to have a little walk around. They're not interested in buying anything. They're just they're out of interest. And some art just isn't their thing. And so they don't really stop and have a look and have a chat. But because, as you might have guessed, I'm a bit of a talker, I do like to stop people and have a chat with them, even if it's, where you're going after this, or what, it doesn't even have to be about my art, but you do draw them in when you start talking to them like that. But okay, so we've I think, let's just have a little look. I think I've gone through the ones that I've pulled up, because that was that one, that's the red one, this was the finger one. Yes, we'll come back to that because that's clearly very so this is an interesting thing. Do you think how long ago did you create this piece of work, before I say what I'm going to say?
I think it was November or December last year.
Right. And so do you think that before you started on your HRT treatment, etc., do you think this would have been a fair reflection, whereas later on in November, December, early part of this year, perhaps, it is a much better reflection of inside your head. That's a tricky question. That's apologise for that. But I just thought I'm really interested in the answer.
I'm a bit confused about timelines. So
Well, I'm just trying to work out whether when you first started creating your work, whereabouts does this fit within that timeline?
Right, yeah. So I started about almost exactly a year ago. It's when I got back from my annual summer holiday this time last year. That's when I started, and I did those alignment paintings. They were some of the first ones I did, and there was some sort of early ones. Pink and Blue Waves was one of the early ones I did, and then I moved on to the autumn ones, which were much more sort of representative but also abstract. And this was one where I went really, really fully abstract for the first time. This is slightly different to my other work, and this one's been very popular with galleries actually. So it's in Shrewsbury, I think that's how you say it.
Well, I can imagine so actually. So what sort of size is it?
It's the same size as this, 25 square.
Okay.
25 square, so just over.
And do you ever go a lot bigger? Do you ever do a sort of 1 meter square?
Yep. So the one that you showed, the alignment one, that is a meter wide and about 65 tall. Yeah, that one. That's huge. I can't go much bigger than that because I'm only 5'2", so I can't manage to like maneuver them around. I'm clumsy as well. This one sold 2 weeks ago.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, brilliant!
It's in Broadstairs, overlooking the sea. It's one of a beachfront property overlooking the sea, surrounded by Jennifer Durrant paintings. So, don't you have heard of her?
Yeah, well, see, now this is another interesting thing for me. I've got a big street scene which was at Flux, and the person that bought the second one of that was at an exhibition in Sussex. And I like to deliver my work because I like to talk about where it's going to go. It's quite important because it's printed on metal, the light needs to be right. Pulled up outside this house and thought I can't be in the right place. It's surely got to be in the wrong place. It looked like Southfork, huge, great big single-story building. And when I went in, they had an original Picasso on the wall. They had all sort of amazing art on the wall. And I said, well, I'm an illustrious company. And they said, we buy art because we like it, not by who it's by. The fact that we got a Picasso on the wall is nothing to do with it. We really liked that piece of work. So I think it's important. It doesn't matter where your art is. It's more about do the people buying it love it? So with that ends, we are going to, because we're close to time up. So let's talk about your website. I'm going to share my screen and show people your website. So this is it, and you've got all these. Clicking on these shows you all the pieces of work that you've created, and they're all in great categories. So here you can see this is the series we've just been talking about, which is the alignment series, and the sun. So we haven't talked about any of these because you didn't send. You sent me that one. Sorry, I stand corrected. You did send me this one, which is the missing pier. And so let's see what that says. What sort of size is that one?
So that's a big one.
It looks it.
60 by 90 centimeters.
Yeah.
So that's the same, similar size to the alignment one.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first big ones I did, first or second really big one. And this one, it's called Missing the Pier because I just got back from holiday this time last year, and my favourite spot on my holiday was on the pier. I really enjoyed I like wood. I really like wood, and I like sort of being on the wood of the pier and having the sea beneath me, and then seeing the sea and out there as well. So, and also I'm from Southend, which has got the longest pleasure pier in the world. It's over a mile long.
You don't need to tell me, because that's where I'm from.
Oh, really?
Left when I was 18. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
The week after I was 19, went to uni.
Yeah, so did I. And my parents moved to Kent, and then I moved to Hertfordshire, which is where I live now. But it's how funny that we are effectively from the same place. Interesting point, which I will bring up here, because artists need to do this, and that's show your work as though it's on someone's wall. It makes a big difference when you're actually selling your work. I think, for people to visualize it sitting on the wall. So yeah, very cool. And I thought, and quite wrongly, clearly, but I would have said missing the pier. I was looking for the boat that's missed the pier, as opposed to you missing the pier. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because when I took it into the printers to have it scanned, he called it avoiding the pier.
Oh. Yeah. So look, that's your website. There's tons on there for people to find, which is fantastic. And this is your Instagram page, so people can find you. Let's bring that up while I'm talking to you here. So there's the website. There is also your Instagram page too. Plenty of things on there to look. And this is, here you are at Flux a couple of weeks ago with Lisa, who of course is the person behind Flux. It's her baby, and we're all part of the Flux family, which is fantastic. And look at that, in the background is missing the pier behind. So yeah, superb. So I didn't hang your work, but I was there all week hanging work, actually. And in fact, here we can see yours ready to go up, and that's, I think there were 800 pieces of art that had to be hung. So it was an enormous undertaking, actually. And we were there all week because I help put it all up and see people in with their work. So yeah, what a job for sure. But look,
thank you for your hard work.
well, yes, but look, this is a great Instagram page. So let's have people following the link that I've got up there, and start to follow you as well, which is brilliant. And you know, it's one of those necessary evils, unfortunately, Instagram, because and Facebook. They're things that as artists we need, but most of us can't find the time to do it. It's a proper pain to have to keep posting stuff. However,
until recently, I was loving it, because I was seeing it as part of my art, like crafting a beautiful Instagram post. I was loving it, like it's part of my art. Like when I can't be in the studio painting, I can be making an Instagram post. But I recently, just this month, just started outsourcing it, so I have someone else that does it for me now.
Oh well, okay. Well, that's not a bad idea either. But what I will be doing is I will the video that I showed right at the start, I will post that on my page, and I'll add you as a collaborator so that you can accept that, and then it'll go onto your page as well. And then we'll see if we can't boost a few followers. I've got a much bigger following on Facebook than I have on Instagram, and you can't add the people that are following you on Facebook onto Instagram, which is really annoying, because but it's just one of those things you have to deal with. I don't know about TikTok. Have you tried that, TikTok, at all?
Yeah, I did it a little bit, but I just couldn't quite get into it.
No, I've got a few things coming up where I might have to get a TikTok thing on the go, but life is a very busy at this moment in time for me. So it's finding time, and I also need to go on holiday. That's a big part. I'm at that stage. One last question, because time's up. One last question. What's your feeling? Because at the moment, it seems every Instagram feed that comes up with me is full of AI art. So how do you feel about that as an artist?
So I actually wanted to try it out. So I found this engine which you put your artwork in, and it will generate a new Wendy Kriz Evans. And I did this. I hated everything it did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought, well, it's clearly not going to be able to create something that I would create. So for me, I don't think it's going to, do what I can do. But for some people, and yeah, I mean, it's not great. And I think the way that they trained all of the AI, just stealing people's work because it was on the internet, it's very unethical that artists haven't been paid. But
it is, and I find it very difficult to really to. In fact, the best way of putting it is, unfortunately, the artists that embrace AI as part of their workflow are the ones that will get on.
Do you think?
And yeah, that's what everybody's saying. So there are some very big photographic artists and photographers that I have known years and also follow, and a couple of them, Glenn Jewis and Joel Grimes, for example, are basically saying you need to embrace it. In other words, it can help you speed up your workflow. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are creating work that is all AI. It means that when you're putting all your work together, if I've got a 2,000 layer image, which I have, that's 600 hours work. If there's anything that's going to help me speed that up, that would be great. But I just don't like the fact that you are, as you've just said, putting your work out there for it to steal. And that's kind of where I feel that that's what happens. However, I've had plenty of people photograph all my work at the exhibition and go home and try and do it, or even, oh, excuse me, can you just get out of the way? There's a little bit of reflection. I need to get away, because they're going to go home and print it. Can't get around that. That's just how people are, unfortunately. Look, our time is up, and I've loved every minute of that. I've learned so much, and can't believe that we're both from the same part of the world. That's very hilarious, actually. It's a very long time ago that I was there, but don't rush off. I'll just wind this up, but don't rush off. We'll have a quick chat afterwards. And then, but for now, thank you very much for coming on. And I think I'll be interested to perhaps sometime next year get you back on. I might get a few artists on that I've interviewed, all on the same night, and we'll see if we can have a catch up, see where you've actually got to. That'd be fantastic.
Exciting.
All right, brilliant. Give me a second. I'll just wrap this up, and then we'll have a quick chat afterwards. And thanks very much, Wendy. It's been brilliant. So there you go. I said it would be another unusual one. I mean, dear oh Lord, talk about prolific, especially holding down a high-profile job as well. That's really impressive. But I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Please leave your comments underneath, because look, even though this is a live broadcast, in theory, we have recorded it the day before. And so if you've got any questions, it means that the chat element won't be working. But if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments underneath, and Wendy and myself can actually answer those if anything comes up. But for now, I will see you next week. Oh, I've got another cracker next week. Clarice is coming on. Clarice was at Flux as well. Her work is superb. So I've already had loads of her work sent to me by WeTransfer. So give you a bit of an idea how much it is. But she's a sort of a pop artist, but a brilliant one. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next week.